They laughed the moment the new doctor walked into the hospital. They did not know that the woman they underestimated would become the one person everyone would remember. The morning sunlight reflected across the glass walls of Westbridge Medical Center as Dr. Olivia Carter stepped through the main entrance for her first day as the newest emergency physician. She carried a simple leather folder, a calm expression, and years of experience that nobody in the busy hallway knew about. Around there, doctors moved quickly between departments, nurses coordinated schedules, and hospital administrators prepared for another demanding day. But before Olivia even reached the emergency department, whispers had already started. Some staff members looked at her name badge and exchanged doubtful expressions. They saw a young black doctor arriving at a hospital known for its demanding standards, and they immediately decided they knew her story before hearing it. Another new doctor trying to prove herself, one person quietly said. Another smiled and mentioned that experience mattered more than confidence. Olivia heard the comments, but she did not react. She simply adjusted her coat, greeted the nurses around her, and continued preparing for the work ahead. She had learned a long time ago that the best response to doubt was not an argument. It was excellence. Across the city, Ethan Walker arrived at the same hospital under very different circumstances. The 47-year-old Korean Mafia boss was known publicly as a powerful businessman with investments across multiple industries, including healthcare. People respected his decisions, but few people truly knew him. Ethan was not impressed by titles or appearances. He had spent years studying people's actions rather than their words. When he entered the hospital that morning, he noticed something others ignored. He saw the way people looked at Olivia before they ever saw her work. He watched as some judged her before she had the chance to introduce herself. Unlike everyone else, Ethan did not make a decision. He simply observed. Later that morning, during a medical department meeting, Olivia sat among experienced physicians who had worked at the hospital for years. The discussion focused on improving emergency procedures, and when Olivia offered a suggestion based on her previous experience, the room became noticeably quiet. A few doctors exchanged doubtful looks. One senior physician questioned whether a newcomer should challenge methods that had existed for years. Olivia calmly explained her reasoning without becoming defensive. She did not speak louder. She did not try to impress anyone. She simply presented the facts. Ethan, standing near the back of the room, noticed something important. While everyone else was focused on proving who had more authority, Olivia was focused on finding the best solution. For the first time that day, someone caught his attention. The doctor everyone had already judged was the only person in the room who was not trying to be seen. She was simply trying to do what was right. But Olivia did not know that the most influential person in the hospital had noticed her. And Ethan did not yet know that the doctor everyone dismissed would soon challenge everything he believed about strength, respect, and true greatness. The first day at Westbridge Medical Center ended with something Olivia Carter had become familiar with throughout her career, people making assumptions before they understood her. But what they did not see was the discipline behind her calm expression, the years of preparation behind every decision, and the quiet confidence that came from knowing her purpose. While some doctors continued questioning whether she belonged in such a respected hospital, Olivia focused on the patients who needed her attention. She arrived early the next morning, reviewed emergency reports, and worked alongside the nursing team with the same respect she gave everyone else. She did not act like she was better than anyone, and she did not try to prove herself through attention. That approach confused some of her colleagues because they expected her to defend herself. Instead, she simply continued doing her job. Ethan Walker noticed. From his office on the upper floor, he reviewed reports from different hospital departments, but one name appeared more often than he expected: Dr. Olivia Carter. Not because she demanded recognition, but because people kept mentioning the same qualities. She listened carefully. She remained composed under pressure. She treated every patient as important. Ethan had met many talented professionals throughout his life, but he had rarely seen someone whose actions matched their values so consistently. Later that afternoon, Ethan attended a hospital leadership meeting where several department heads discussed future improvements. Olivia was invited to provide input about emergency care procedures. Before she could speak, one senior doctor interrupted and questioned whether someone new should influence decisions that had been established for years. The room became quiet. Olivia looked around and noticed the uncertainty on several faces. She could have responded with frustration. She could have reminded them of her qualifications. Instead, she calmly explained that experience was valuable, but progress required people willing to consider new ideas. Her words were respectful, yet they carried confidence. Ethan watched from his seat and recognized something rare. Olivia was not trying to defeat anyone in the room. She was trying to help everyone improve. After the meeting, one of the hospital employees approached Olivia and apologized for how she had been treated. Olivia simply smiled and said she understood that trust took time. Ethan overheard the conversation from a distance and became even more curious. Many people who were underestimated eventually became bitter. Olivia had chosen something different. She remained kind without becoming weak. She remained confident without becoming arrogant. That evening, Ethan reviewed the hospital's performance reports again. He noticed that Olivia's name was connected to several positive changes, but what interested him most was not her medical skill alone. It was the way people responded around her. Nurses felt respected. Patients felt heard. Employees felt encouraged. Ethan realized that Olivia possessed something that could not be measured by awards or titles. She had earned the trust of people who had no reason to impress her. But while Ethan began seeing the truth behind Olivia's character, others in the hospital continued believing the rumors they had created. They still saw her as the new doctor who needed to prove herself. They did not realize that the moment was coming when her actions would speak louder than every doubt they had placed on her. The days after Olivia Carter's first meetings at Westbridge Medical Center revealed something unexpected. The more people watched her work, the harder it became to maintain the assumptions they had created about her. A doctor who was supposed to be inexperienced was becoming the person many employees quietly relied on when situations became complicated. But not everyone was ready to accept that change. Some senior physicians believed respect came from years of reputation alone. Olivia believed respect came from what a person did when others needed them most. One afternoon, the emergency department faced a demanding situation that required teamwork, patience, and clear judgment. The hospital corridors became filled with a focused movement as doctors, nurses, and staff worked together to provide care. Olivia stepped forward without seeking attention. She listened to the team, reviewed the available information, and calmly suggested an approach that considered every detail others had overlooked. The same people who had questioned her earlier now paused and listened. There was something different about the way she handled pressure. She did not try to appear like the smartest person in the room. She simply focused on doing what was best. Ethan Walker happened to be at the hospital that day for a scheduled review of his healthcare investments. From a quiet observation area, he watched the emergency team work. He noticed how Olivia communicated with everyone around her. She thanked nurses for their support. She respected other doctors' opinions while still sharing her own. She remained calm when others became uncertain. Ethan had spent years studying people, especially those who wanted power or recognition. But Olivia was different. She had no interest in proving she was better than anyone else. Her actions proved her character without needing an announcement. After the situation was resolved, Ethan saw something that stayed with him. A younger staff member who had once remained silent approached Olivia and thanked her for encouraging the team. Olivia responded by saying that everyone contributed to the outcome. She did not take credit for herself. She shared it with the people around her. Ethan realized that this was why people trusted her. She made others feel valued. That evening, Ethan met with several hospital leaders who discussed Olivia's performance. Some still hesitated to acknowledge her impact, explaining that she was simply fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. Ethan listened carefully. He understood something they did not. Talent was not always recognized immediately, especially when people allowed assumptions to influence their judgment. But eventually, the truth had a way of becoming impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, Olivia continued working as she always had. She did not know that the most influential person connected to the hospital had been observing her. She did not know that Ethan was beginning to question the way he judged people based on reputation and appearances. All she knew was that patients needed care, and her responsibility was to provide it. But soon, the people who underestimated her would witness a moment that would change the way they saw her forever. And Ethan Walker would discover that true greatness was not found in the people who demanded recognition, but in the person who earned it quietly every day. The reputation of Dr. Olivia Carter continued to grow inside Westbridge Medical Center, but not everyone was comfortable with the attention she was receiving. For some senior physicians, admitting that the new doctor had earned respect meant admitting they had judged her too quickly. They had formed an opinion before seeing her dedication, her knowledge, and the way she treated every person around her. But Olivia never focused on proving them wrong. She focused on proving her patients right when they trusted her with their care. One morning, the hospital leadership team gathered for a major review meeting. Department heads discussed future plans, performance reports, and improvements needed throughout the medical center. Olivia was invited to share her observations from the emergency department. As she entered the conference room, she felt the familiar silence that appeared whenever people were unsure about her. Some looked at her as if they were waiting for a mistake. Others seemed curious but hesitant. Olivia placed her notes on the table and calmly began explaining what she had learned from working with the hospital team. She highlighted areas that could improve communication between departments and suggested ways to support both patients and medical staff. Her ideas were practical, thoughtful, and based on experience. But before the discussion could continue, one senior doctor interrupted. He questioned whether someone who had only recently joined the hospital could truly understand problems that had existed for years. The room became quiet. Everyone waited to see how Olivia would respond. She could have defended herself by listing her achievements. She could have reminded everyone of her qualifications. Instead, she simply looked at the doctor and answered with a calm confidence. She explained that she respected the experience of those who came before her, but progress required listening to new perspectives as well. Her response was not a challenge. It was an invitation to work together. Ethan Walker, who was attending the meeting, watched carefully. He noticed that Olivia never allowed disrespect to change the way she carried herself. She remained professional even when others were not. That moment confirmed something he had already started to understand. Olivia's strength was not only in her medical ability. It was in her character. After the meeting, Ethan saw several employees discussing Olivia's presentation. Some who had once doubted her were beginning to reconsider their opinions. They realized she was not trying to replace anyone or seek attention. She was trying to make the hospital better. Later that day, Ethan met Olivia briefly in the hallway. He told her that many people would have reacted differently in that meeting. Olivia simply smiled and said that every person had a difficult day sometimes, and judging them too quickly would only create more problems. Her answer surprised him. Ethan had spent years around people who responded to challenges with pride. Olivia responded with understanding. As he watched her walk away, Ethan realized that the person everyone underestimated possessed a kind of confidence that money and influence could not create. But while some people were beginning to respect Olivia, others were still determined to prove that she did not belong. They did not realize that the next event would reveal exactly who she was when the entire hospital needed someone to step forward. The morning after the leadership meeting, Westbridge Medical Center felt different. The atmosphere was still busy, the hallways were still filled with doctors, nurses, and patients, but something had changed. More people had started paying attention to Dr. Olivia Carter, not because she demanded recognition, but because her actions continued to speak for her. Every day, she arrived prepared, treated everyone with respect, and focused on the responsibility she had chosen. Yet behind the scenes, some people still struggled to accept that someone they had underestimated was becoming one of the most respected doctors in the hospital. Among them was Dr. Richard Hayes, a senior physician who believed experience alone determined a person's value. He had spent decades building his reputation, and he found it difficult to accept that a newer doctor could bring meaningful changes. One afternoon, a complex situation required cooperation between several departments. The hospital team needed someone who could bring different perspectives together and create a clear plan. Several experienced doctors shared their opinions, but disagreements slowed the discussion. Olivia quietly listened to every concern before speaking. She reviewed the information carefully, considered each person's perspective, and suggested a solution that balanced medical priorities with the needs of the staff. The room became silent. Not because she demanded attention, but because everyone realized her approach was thoughtful and practical. Even Dr. Hayes paused. For the first time, he saw Olivia differently. She was not trying to challenge his position. She was trying to help the entire team succeed. Ethan Walker observed the situation from a distance. He had seen many people throughout his life who wanted influence, but few who carried responsibility without seeking praise. Olivia had something rare. She could lead without needing control. She could be confident without making others feel smaller. Later that evening, Ethan reviewed information about Olivia's career. He discovered that before joining Westbridge Medical Center, she had worked in several demanding environments where she faced challenges that tested both her skills and her character. She had been overlooked before, but she never allowed those experiences to change the way she treated others. Ethan found that detail more impressive than any award or achievement listed on her record. In his ward, people often changed when they gained power. Olivia had remained the same even when people refused to recognize her. Meanwhile, the opinions inside the hospital began shifting. Nurses who had once stayed quiet started openly supporting her. Younger doctors began asking for her advice. Even some senior staff members started admitting that her ideas had improved the way teams worked together. Olivia noticed the change but never allowed it to affect her attitude. She continued focusing on the patients who needed her. Ethan watched this carefully and began understanding something important. The strongest people were not always the ones who stood above others. Sometimes, they were the ones who lifted everyone around them. But Ethan also knew that a true test of character came when recognition was no longer enough. Soon, Olivia would face a moment where the entire hospital would have to decide whether they truly valued her or only respected her when it was convenient. And Ethan would discover why the woman they once dismissed was someone the world needed to notice. The days that followed changed the way people looked at Dr. Olivia Carter inside Westbridge Medical Center. She had entered the hospital as someone many people underestimated, but slowly, her actions had created a reputation that could not be ignored. Still, Olivia understood that respect was not built from one successful moment. It was built through consistency, patience, and the way a person treated others when nobody was watching. One afternoon, the hospital faced a situation that required every department to work together. A large number of patients needed careful attention after a major community event brought unexpected challenges to the emergency department. The hospital became filled with movement, communication, and pressure as doctors and nurses coordinated their efforts. Some staff members became overwhelmed by the complexity of the situation, but Olivia remained calm. She walked through each department, listened to concerns, and helped organize a clear approach that allowed everyone to contribute. She did not act like she was the only person with answers. Instead, she brought people together. Ethan Walker arrived at the hospital that evening after receiving updates about the situation. As one of the hospital's major investors, he expected to see confusion and uncertainty. Instead, he saw something completely different. He saw Olivia standing among the medical team, encouraging nurses, supporting doctors, and making sure everyone felt valued. She was not seeking attention. She was not trying to show that she was right. She was simply doing what needed to be done. Ethan watched from the hallway and remembered the first day he saw her. Everyone had judged her before understanding her. But now, those same people were following her guidance because they had witnessed her character. Later, Ethan spoke with several hospital leaders who admitted that they had been wrong about Olivia. Some explained that they had focused too much on her being new and not enough on what she brought to the hospital. Ethan listened quietly. He knew that many people made mistakes when they judged others too quickly. What mattered was whether they were willing to recognize the truth when it appeared in front of them. Meanwhile, Olivia continued helping the team without expecting anything in return. When someone thanked her, she simply reminded them that the entire hospital staff contributed to the outcome. Ethan noticed that even after receiving recognition, she remained exactly the same person. That was what impressed him most. In a world where many people changed after gaining influence, Olivia remained grounded. She had no interest in becoming important. She only cared about making a difference. As the evening ended, Ethan stood near the hospital entrance watching employees leave. He realized that Olivia represented something he rarely saw in his own ward. She had strength without arrogance, confidence without pride, and compassion without weakness. The people who once questioned her were beginning to understand her value, but Ethan knew the story was not finished yet. True recognition did not come from one person's approval. It came when everyone finally saw what had been there all along. And soon, the moment would arrive when Ethan would have the chance to say out loud what many people were finally beginning to believe. The morning after the hospital-wide challenge, something felt different at Westbridge Medical Center. The same hallways that once carried whispers of doubt now carried conversations filled with respect. Dr. Olivia Carter did not notice the change immediately because she was already focused on the next patient, the next responsibility, and the next person who needed her attention. She had never worked to become admired. She had only worked to make a difference. But for the first time, many people around her finally understood the value she had brought from the beginning. Among those watching this transformation was Ethan Walker. The Korean Mafia boss had spent his life surrounded by people who often showed respect because of his influence, his reputation, or what they hoped to gain from him. Olivia was different. She had shown him kindness before knowing his position. She had treated him like a person before knowing his power. That difference stayed in his mind. One afternoon, Ethan attended a private meeting with hospital executives to discuss future plans. Several leaders praised the improvements happening throughout the medical center, but when Olivia's name was mentioned, the room became quiet. Some executives admitted they had underestimated her. Others explained that they had focused too much on her background instead of her abilities. Ethan listened carefully as each person reflected on their mistakes. He understood that changing opinions was not easy, especially for people who had already decided what they believed. But Olivia had not changed because others finally accepted her. She had remained consistent until the truth became impossible to ignore. Later that day, Ethan saw Olivia helping a young medical assistant who was struggling with confidence. Instead of simply giving instructions, she took time to explain, encourage, and remind the assistant that every skilled professional had once been a beginner. Ethan watched the moment quietly. He realized that this was the reason people trusted her. Olivia did not only treat patients. She helped people believe they could become better. For someone like Ethan, who had spent years measuring success through results and influence, this was a lesson he did not expect to learn. That evening, Ethan and Olivia had a conversation near the hospital garden. The city lights reflected across the glass buildings around them as they discussed leadership, responsibility, and the challenges of being judged before being understood. Ethan admitted that many people around him valued appearances more than character. Olivia simply replied that people often fear what they do not understand. Her words stayed with him because they reflected something he had experienced throughout his own life. The difference was that Olivia chose patience instead of resentment. As days passed, more employees began recognizing Olivia's contribution. The doctors who once questioned her started seeking her opinion. Nurses who had noticed her dedication from the beginning felt proud to see others finally acknowledge it, but one question remained inside Ethan's mind. How could he show the world what he had already discovered? How could he recognize someone whose greatest strength was never asking to be recognized? The answer would come during a moment when the entire hospital would be watching. And when Ethan finally spoke, his words would change the way everyone saw Dr. Olivia Carter forever. The day everyone had been waiting for arrived quietly at Westbridge Medical Center. There were no dramatic announcements, no signs that something important was about to happen. It began like any other morning, with doctors reviewing schedules, nurses preparing for another busy day, and patients entering the hospital hoping for care and comfort. But behind the ordinary routine was a moment that would change how everyone viewed Dr. Olivia Carter. For weeks, people had watched her work. They had seen her patience, her knowledge, and the way she treated every person with the same level of respect. Those who once questioned whether she belonged were now the same people who looked for her guidance. Yet Olivia remained unaware of the impact she had created. She still arrived early, stayed focused, and gave credit to the entire medical team. Ethan Walker noticed this more than anyone. He understood influence. He understood reputation. But Olivia had shown him something different. She had built respect without demanding it. She had earned trust without asking for it. During a special hospital gathering, leaders from different departments came together to recognize the people who had made meaningful contributions. Olivia stood among her colleagues, believing she was there simply to support the team. She never expected attention to turn toward her. As several employees shared their experiences, they described moments when Olivia had encouraged them, supported them, and reminded them that their work mattered. Nurses spoke about how she listened when others ignored their concerns. Younger doctors shared how her guidance helped them become more confident. Even some senior physicians admitted that their first impressions had been wrong. The room became quiet as everyone reflected on how quickly they had judged someone they never truly understood. Ethan watched Olivia from across the room. He saw the same person he had noticed on her first day. The same calm expression. The same humility. The same determination to help others before herself. When it was his turn to speak, everyone looked toward him. They expected words about performance, achievements, or professional success. Instead, Ethan spoke about character. He explained that many people spend their lives trying to become important, but very few people become unforgettable by simply doing what is right. He looked toward Olivia and said that she represented something rare. She had strength without arrogance, intelligence without pride, and compassion without expecting anything in return. The room remained silent as his words settled. The people who once laughed at her confidence now understood that they had misunderstood her completely. Olivia accepted the recognition with gratitude, but she reminded everyone that the achievement belonged to the entire hospital team. Ethan smiled because he expected nothing less from her. In that moment, he understood why she had earned his respect. It was never because she impressed powerful people. It was because she treated every person as valuable. After the gathering ended, employees continued discussing Ethan's words. The title he gave Olivia was not based on status or popularity. It was based on the truth everyone had finally witnessed. She had always been extraordinary. They simply needed time to see it, and as the hospital returned to its daily rhythm, one final moment remained. Ethan knew that the world had finally recognized Olivia's greatness, but he also knew the most important lesson was the one he had learned from her: true legends are not created by attention. They are revealed through actions that speak when no one is watching. The days after Ethan Walker called Dr. Olivia Carter a legend were different, but not because Olivia changed. She continued walking through the same hospital hallways, wearing the same professional coat, greeting the same nurses, and caring for the same patients with the same dedication she had shown from the beginning. The difference was that people finally saw what had always been there. The doctor they once questioned was now the person many people looked to for guidance. But Olivia never allowed recognition to change her. She understood that respect was not something a person collected like an award. It was something built through countless small choices made every day. Ethan noticed this more than anyone. For years, he'd lived in a world where people often measured importance by influence, wealth, and reputation. He had watched people change when they gained power. He had seen kindness disappear when there was nothing to gain. But Olivia challenged everything he believed. She had shown him that a person could become respected without demanding attention. She could lead without making others feel small. She could be powerful without needing control. One evening, Ethan visited Westbridge Medical Center after a long day of meetings. The hospital was quieter than usual, with the soft lights reflecting across the empty hallways. He found Olivia reviewing patient notes before leaving for the night. When he asked why she continued working so hard after everything that had happened, she simply explained that the patients who needed help did not care about recognition or reputation. They only cared that someone was there for them. Ethan stood silently for a moment. Her answer reminded him of the lesson he had slowly learned throughout their journey. Real greatness was not about being noticed. It was about being useful when someone needed you most. Before leaving, Ethan thanked Olivia for changing the way he viewed people. He admitted that when he first saw her, he understood her position, but he did not understand her value. Olivia smiled and told him that everyone deserved the chance to be seen beyond their first impression. Those words stayed with him. Months later, Westbridge Medical Center continued to improve. The culture inside the hospital became more respectful, more collaborative, and more focused on the people it served. Doctors listened more carefully. Employees supported each other more openly. And Olivia continued doing what she had always done, helping others without expecting anything in return. Ethan also changed. He became a different kind of leader, one who listened before making decisions and valued character as much as achievement. The most powerful lesson he carried from Olivia was simple. A person's worth was never determined by how others judged them at first glance. It was revealed through their actions, their choices, and the way they treated people when nobody was watching. Looking back, everyone at Westbridge Medical Center remembered the day they finally understood Olivia Carter. They remembered the moment assumptions disappeared and truth became clear. The people who once overlooked her realized they had been standing beside someone extraordinary all along. And Ethan Walker, a man who had spent his life surrounded by power, discovered that the greatest strength he had ever witnessed came from someone who never needed power to prove her worth. That was the day everyone remembered what true greatness looked like.